Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, my name is Nicole and I'm a part-time reseller on Poshmark, and today I'm going to basically talk all things pricing, how I price, and what are good ways to find what is a good way to price, and things like that. I know a lot of people have asked me for pricing strategy and what I do on Poshmark, so I figured I would cover that all in one video today. And so if this is something that you like, make sure that you keep watching and make sure that you're subscribed so you never miss a future video that I do here on this channel. Okay, so personally, I feel like there are four main ways that I determine a price for something on Poshmark. So the number one thing is basically just using your best judgment. If it's a brand that you know, or if it's a brand that you think you know generally what the price would go for, then just use your best judgment and price it that way. But if you do not know, if it's a completely new brand to you, or you're just not familiar with the brand, then definitely follow one of the following tips to price the item. But generally, I try and be very fair with my prices. I try and make sure that I'm not overpricing, but also not underpricing, because you want the item to actually sell and you want it to be competitive amongst an entire market of items. So the first avenue that you can go through is actually using the Posh Lens by taking a photo of the item, and then you could see what other people are pricing that exact item for if it comes up in the Posh Lens. And you can also filter on solds too. So like if you want to see what people have sold it for, but I generally try and go with what people are actively listing it for, because what somebody sold it for maybe a year ago is not really the same as what someone's trying to sell it for now. So I generally keep to just looking at active listings, but you can also look at what items have sold, and you could go from there and see what prices people have been selling it for and which one, was a good starting price. The next step that you could take if you're really not sure, and maybe the Posh Lens didn't work for you, because believe me, I've been there, done that, and the Posh Lens has not worked for me, is maybe using Google Lens. So Google Lens is a great tool that basically you take a picture of the item just like Posh Lens, but I find it to be a little bit more accurate. And this will bring up any listings of that item that's being sold on Google, on other selling platforms, anything like that. And I generally click on the shopping tab, and then I can see what the price is that it's going for and where it's being sold. So I can generally get an idea of, what that item is going for. And so I love using the Google Lens, especially if I'm not too familiar with the brand and I'm really not sure how to price it. This will tell you specifically for that item, maybe if it's a dress or something like that, it'll tell you specifically what the price is for that on other platforms. Now, take it with a grain of salt, because some people are going to price higher and some people are going to price lower. You kind of want to go right in the middle. You don't want to go too high, you don't want to go too low. The next option that you could do, and I've done this a couple times, is one, just look up the brand of the item. If it's a brand new brand to you, you could look up the brand and again do shopping and see what the brand is generally selling for. But sometimes that's not really accurate if the brand sells in a variety of different categories. So if that doesn't work, then I would generally go into what category specifically. So I would say American Eagle jeans. That would narrow down the search, because I think jeans sell differently than maybe a top would. So I would definitely narrow down the search a little bit. And I've done this with a couple brands that I was not familiar with, and that's actually how I found out that they were pretty decent selling brands. So again, if you really have no other option and you're just trying to look up the style or the brand or the category, then type in whatever you have to Google that could describe the item, and it will help you kind of figure out how to price the item. And the last final option for pricing is to look up the SKU number. So a lot of the times the SKU number is on the tags of the items, on the material tag or the other tag. And so if you really don't know anything else and Google Lens isn't working for you and the category thing isn't working for you, you can look up the SKU number and the brand name, or just the SKU number if that's all you have, and something might come up and it might show you all the listings of that specific brand or anything like that. So the SKU number is really helpful because it brings up the specific listing or the specific item. So that is another great option if you just want to solely get that specific item and what that item is selling for in general. So things you want to keep in mind when you are pricing. So generally you want to price a little bit higher than you want to actually sell the item for, because you have to, one, remember that somebody might send you an offer. Two, you want to leave room for if you want to send out offers, because I know personally I love sending out offers, and I feel like most of my sales come from either me sending out an offer or somebody offering me. So You generally want to price a little bit higher just so it gives you that wiggle room to then be able to send an offer or accept an offer that you get from a buyer. If you price too low, you're not going to have that option to do, and then you're going to really be making not a lot of money on the item. And like I mentioned before, you want to price competitively, because if you're selling your items way higher than anybody else is selling them, they're probably not going to sell really well. And again, if you're pricing way too low, you're probably going to be hurting your sales and making it so, you're not making as much as you possibly could on the item. The final thing I want to talk about when it comes to pricing is to just make sure that you're pricing on those numbers that are going to make your items show up in double feed. If you price it at 10, 25, 50, or 100, those are categories that will make your item show up in double search feeds, because those are the generated filter tags. So I'll show you what I mean on here on the screen. But if you price your item at 50, it's going to come up in the 10 to 50 category and the 50 to 100 category. So it's going to make your item come up in a lot more search feeds. So this is just something to know. I generally don't price like 45 or even 9 or 99 or things like that, or even like 90, because to me, I just want the item to be able to show up in more feeds, and so it'll get a better chance of selling if it shows up more times. So for me, generally pricing it on those 10, 25, 50, and 100 marks really help it show up in double feeds, and that just gives you an extra chance to sell the item. Okay, so I hope this video helped you, and I hope it gave you a better idea on how to price your items. Again, everyone follows a different pricing strategy, and everyone, something different works for everyone. And so if you are an expert on prices, then you probably don't even need to be watching this video. But also, there's a lot of brands, like if you pick up new brands, you might not know how to price them. And I've actually learned the hard way several times. I picked up a very nice dress one time that was, I didn't know anything about the brand, and I just kind of guessed using my best judgment. And to my knowledge, the brand actually sold a lot higher. So right after I listed the item, I got an offer on it, and the offer was reasonable, but I thought, okay, well, if I'm getting an offer this quickly on the item, maybe I priced it too low. So then I looked up the brand, and I looked up dresses, and I saw that the dresses actually sold closer to 100. And so I realized I made the mistake of pricing it too low, because I priced it at 25, and they were selling on Poshmark for around 100. So it's definitely important to look up those brands that you're not familiar with, and definitely be fair, because otherwise you're going to lose out on a lot of money on potential items, and you definitely don't want to do that, especially on items that are really nice pieces that you get for a small price. You want to make sure that you maximize the profit on them. So hopefully this video was helpful for you, and hopefully you learned a thing or two about how to price your items, especially if you are struggling. I hope those of you out there that were looking for a pricing strategy video definitely learned something from this video. And if you have any more questions, definitely leave them in the comments. I would love to answer any specific questions that you have when it comes to pricing. But these are just generally the tips that I follow when it comes to pricing and, things like that. If you want to see another video on different features that you should be using on Poshmark, you could click right here. And if you want to see a video that talks about what has been happening on Poshmark recently and kind of why I've been so down in the dumps this year with Poshmark, you could click right here. But until next time, I will see you then.